Hi, and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh, and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we interview people from various artistic disciplines. These episodes are sometimes full-length interviews from our site's articles and other times exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back, and if you're new here, thanks for checking us out. We hope you'll like it and stick around with us. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with the Liverpudlian musician and artist Lydia Rowlands. Lydia discusses their latest single, The Names That They Gave Us, how they became a musician, the Liverpool music scene, their mission to make venues and festivals more disability friendly, being non-binary and queer acceptance, and much more. Oh, can you hear me okay? Yeah, there we go.
Huzzah!
It's
Hiya.
perfect. Hi, how are you doing?
You okay?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah. Football hasn't ended yet. Like, it's getting super close, but it hasn't ended yet. And Doctor Who came out on Saturday, so I'm British. It's all we care about. As
There's
long as
reasons to
Doctor Who was on
celebrate.
TV on a Saturday night,
Yeah.
yeah, we can live with David Cameron coming back if it comes with David Tennant. I don't know why.
The thousands are back, really. um, yeah, first question I wanted to ask, quite simply, actually, was just kind of like about your sort of background as kind of a musician. Like, how'd you get into music? I guess
Yeah.
to kind of begin with.
I know this is. I wanted to know about you as well, just because we don't know each other that well. But
Yeah, no worries.
essentially, COVID.
Okay.
I had nothing else to do. Because I'm a young carer, this freaking cave of a 14-year-old, like it's like a time capsule
Right.
of me at 14. Like if I budge, there's a Sherlock poster, there's Gerard, quite a lot of Gerard Way, My
Nice.
Chemical Romance this way. And so I'm just getting back at it, but I've been writing and making music in my bedroom, and I have been for 6 years now.
Okay. So what was kind of like actually like your first kind of like I guess like impetus of wanting to become a musician like as a kid, or was it kind of like later in life?
I always wanted to be a journalist until my mom told me that no one likes journalists.
I can
And I'd
attest to that.
probably end up getting in this day and age. I'd probably end up getting shot.
Yeah.
No, the music thing came. I was a poet first, and then my mum always wanted musicians in the family. And I was lucky enough to have a great guitar teacher that just sort of wandered in. And then some health stuff happened with me where I couldn't play guitar.
Okay.
So I was about 14. They were like, "You've got to learn to do a lot of stuff again, right, and all this stuff." And I was like, "Can I play guitar again?" They were like, "No." And then I was like, "Okay, I have to be a musician now. You said I can't do it. It's all I have to do now." But with not being able to play instruments for a while, it meant I got quite good with the technical side of things, I
Right.
guess. Which is sadly all people want right now. Like it's not good enough to just be able to write songs. You've got to be able to manage social media,
Right.
work, like every service under the sun, and know a bunch of stuff. And it just makes me sad to think that, like, if I was at the level I am, if I was a 14-year-old now, I would never have had a chance. Like COVID, regardless, which means I'd argue it's a bit sucky to be an independent musician right now. No
No,
one wants to
totally.
make music. Everyone wants to be famous.
No, actually, that's like that's something I've always like talk with like other artists about. It's like the idea of like not being like a musician. It's like not just being a musician. Sorry, it's like you do have to be like a social media manager. You do have to kind of like learn production. A lot of people like, especially during COVID, had to kind of like transition to production as well. And like like I don't think there is anyone nowadays who are just a musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't get away with it. It's like the bar to be seen and to be recognized is getting higher and higher and higher. Like it
Yep.
used to just be you could put a demo on SoundCloud, which is how I started. And I still love them and hold a lot of love for the tracks I made on Audacity with my phone. Like
Right.
that's never going to change, but that's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get, you don't get A&R members in clubs, in like regular local music scene clubs, which are a dying breed anyway. You don't get spotted, and it now feels like everyone is chasing something that doesn't exist. So everyone's doing all the social media stuff for a record deal,
Yep.
and it's gotten to the point where record companies are now disguising independent musicians.
Hmm.
So they'll be signed of a career, and they'll be branding themselves as an independent musician because that's what everyone's doing. it feels like you genuinely don't have a chance in hell for like a 14-year-old that just wants to make music and just wants to have fun. There's no fun anymore.
Yeah.
Not
But I
to
think
be overwhelmingly depressing. It's been a rough couple of months, man.
no, I can imagine. And like, but I think at the same time, there's still like what do you call it? There's still like a kind of tenacity or kind of like I don't know, a drive that I guess like every kind of like artist kind of gets. You think that's like something that will sort of dissipate, like in the sense that musicians now will kind of have to like sorry, up and coming musicians like you're talking about like the 14-year-old kid in their bedroom and stuff. Do you think they'll just kind of adapt like in the same sense that it's like, well, this is the industry side of things that like everyone had to adapt to at any point in their life, really?
They will, but God, I hope they don't.
Yeah.
Like, I reject the fact that A, art has to be good to be enjoyable.
Mhm.
But like some of the, yeah, but it it takes away your chance to learn and grow and make mistakes. And because everything's public nowadays, because you can't escape social media, you lose the ability to make mistakes. It's like everyone's first single that's out is going to be their top, and they're going to be referenced to that forever. Whereas there's no, learning period where you can write something and think, oh, maybe that's not right. I'll put it out, see what people think.
Mhm.
It's all got to be on mainstream streaming services. It's all got to go straight onto Spotify. And it really eliminates your chance to make mistakes and be a bit shit,
Right.
because you're going to have to be shit to get good and to learn, which is why most people now are jumping to producers and co-writers to get, the stuff they'd make, their first release be a mainstream release. And it's great. And if you want to do that, I've done it. Like, it's great, but it takes away your chance to grow and try stuff. Like, this year I've released some very unperfect stuff because I spent a bit too long trying to be perfect for myself, for everyone. And I've had a lot of fun being very imperfect and releasing live stuff and bad demos and songs from when I was 16 and going, what are you gonna do? No one's
Yeah.
listening anyway. What are you gonna do?
Actually, yeah, that's like you mentioned there, like kind of like releasing demos and kind of like I think that's like still kind of like an interesting thing to do, where it's like these are still like works in progress, but you're kind of like giving people kind of a peek behind the curtain in a way where it's like like check out what I'm doing, and yeah, I was wondering like what kind of like inspired that decision to kind of like go, okay, like here's what I'm working on still, and you can have access to it.
Yeah.
Some people
I
are very
think
precious about that, I guess.
I used to be really precious about demos, and it's just because my insecurity died. I spent like there's easily 2 albums worth of work on my laptop that I'm like, no one can hear because it's not
Right.
right yet. But if you spend your entire life thinking it's not right yet, how on earth is it going to get any better if no one hears it?
Hmm.
And then on top of that, I had to learn that no one is listening. I mean, I have a lovely little group of friends. I've got the most supportive tiny little fan group and really nice magazines and supporters. But in terms of grand scale, I'm not going to get, media backlash or anything if I release a bad song or a rough demo. I can do what I want. And I think that's why I'd always want to stay an independent musician and have this not be a serious thing. Because the second people, sort of expect stuff from you, I
Hmm.
don't know how I'd handle that.
Yeah.
It's bad enough just having a band and them expecting me to show up on time. I'm not very good at that.
But that's actually like, but I think that kind of like creative like freedom you're talking about, like and the kind of like the lack of expectation. I mean, like there is like that like sense of freedom where it's like I don't know. Do you think like now, kind of in the digital age that we kind of like live in, like on the one hand, as you were kind of mentioning, you have like all those kind of like things that like the kind of expectations of being more than just a musician, and but at the same time, you also do get like a lot of freedom that comes with that too.
Yeah. It's odd when you're in charge of everything yourself. It's nice to be able to say what gigs I don't want to play, what gigs I don't, what
Yeah.
people I want to work with is a big one, because obviously not all people are good people, no matter how much recognition they get.
All right.
It tends to be the further up you look and the more you try and escape your music scene, the more you're like, oh my god, everyone's a monster. I'm just
Hmm.
going to stay in my local club and hide here. But if you take away the sort of expectation that it's like everyone's got to be good at figuring out how social media works and making reels, and I still can't figure out how Instagram works, and I don't know what threads are, so don't ask me.
Yeah.
um yeah, it means sort of letting myself be crap. In a sense, it brings more people in because I think people genuinely want honesty. after seeing so many perfectly created stuff, it's nice to know that people can be human. Like, I think that's one of the big reasons why Lewis Capaldi is as loved as he is,
Yeah.
because that was a man who wasn't intending to be famous and then didn't change.
Yeah.
And then was like, oh no, thousands of people are looking at the pictures I took on the toilet, and I'm like, yeah, but you know, you've got to stop pretending you're any different because people follow you on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, like as someone who like yourself, as you were mentioning, like you started kind of like doing music as like a teenager. I mean, what was your sort of initial kind of influences? I mean, like in terms of like not only like the music itself, but in terms of like I don't know, kind of what you kind of aspired to be, let's say, or did you have any aspirations beyond just I want to create music just for art's sake?
Oh, I wanted to be in a rock band, and I wanted to be on tour and do all of the Hayley Williams, Gerard Way. I was an emo kid, and I
Yeah.
wanted all of that. And then I started writing music and started doing musical theatre and realised my voice doesn't really fit musical theatre, doesn't really fit rock anymore. And the songs I was writing, people call them folk. And I started listening to folk music, and it became a thing where I was like, oh, you know, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to music than you think when you're 14. And I was like, pop punk is the only thing that matters.
Right.
I'm not a poser. I will be rock and roll. And I had like wristbands up to here.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I went from wanting to be Gerard Way to just wanting anyone to listen to the little songs I wrote about my life in whatever scale they wanted to be. Now I'd just be happy if I could like sell out a little coffee shop and people would listen. Like I can't. I'm a disabled musician, so I can't really do the running around on stage, messing around with my guitar and shredding. So I think it went from wanting to be this like rock star phenomenon to just wanting to be someone who makes a difference with their music. Not even like I just like someone to listen to it and go, "Oh, that was nice," and
Yeah.
that's enough. Like,
Well,
it's odd, and people are like, "Oh, is it because you just like, realistic expectations of you're never gonna do that?" No one's like, I'm never saying I could do that. No one knows what the future brings. I could get really lucky, but I like the idea of any more than 10 people in a room terrifies me.
really.
I I went from wanting to be a rock star to just like leave me in a cabin with my guitar, and if people want to listen to this wander by and listen to the songs I play, then that's enough. Yeah.
At the same
Maybe
time, like
maybe it was COVID that just made me went, nope, hermit now, full-time hermit. I like this.
well, actually, like when it kind of like comes to your music, I mean, like obviously it's very personal. It's like it's you're kind of like exposing a lot of what you're feeling, and I was wondering like with that kind of like I like within like kind of like the confines of like a solo artist. I mean, you have the freedom to kind of just like write and do as you please. If you were in a band, as you were mentioning, like there's more of a, I guess, a kind of a democratic process that comes. Do you find I don't know, do you like being able to just do things on your own, or would you prefer to have people to kind of bounce ideas back and forth with?
I thought I liked doing things on my own because it's the way I'd always done it. But that comes from, I think, thinking you're better on your own.
Right.
And also me thinking I wasn't good enough to be around other people and to write with them. And then I always say I was trying to get a boyfriend and ended up with a band because I met a guy and his friends cornered me in a bar one night and were like, you need a band. It was after we all played Heebie Jeebies and they were like, you need a band. You need a guitarist, you need drums, you need people behind you. And my bass player is my best friend.
Yeah.
Which is really handy. My drummer's one of my closest mates, and it's the three of us currently. And I thought it'd be hard saying, here is a really vulnerable song, here is this unfinished thing. But when they are genuinely your friends and it's friends first, there's no fear. So I wrote a song, it was recently at the time, but called Perfect Crime, and it's very bluntly about sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing it for the first time in the room. And there was no quiet. There was no, oh, are you okay? Do we need to talk about this very big issue? Like Cuthbert, the drummer, just started playing along because that's what drummers do. I don't deal with, oh shit, I'm going to hit my little sticks. And if you're a drummer. And it was a sort of nicer thing where it's like, oh yeah, we don't have to talk about the issue. This is just the music. You're my friends. You know what the issue is.
Yeah.
But I can just work with you. The other day I was in the studio recording our first band song. Not recording, mixing. and we added in little details, like just to, because I need to relight this. We added in that as an actual sound effect, the strike of a match.
Okay.
And it works. I know that sounds crazy, but it does work. And we effed around with the snare and stuff. And I was sitting there going, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
If I just let other people help me, I can do this. And my studio engineer doesn't mind me sitting there with a notebook going, so what are you doing? And how do you do that? And what button do you press? So I definitely say I thought I was better off alone. No one is better off alone, especially when it comes to music. Writing in terms of lyrics, I don't tend to write well with someone else just because my head doesn't tend to function. When it's writing my own personal music and it's personal stuff to me, I can't, not very good at, sharing that with someone else and being like, help me write this, help me fill in the rest of this story, because it's always too personal. I know the story, I know the beginning, middle, end. I write musical theatre. Writing musical theatre and like concept songs with other people is great because I can be like, I have this vague idea, can you help me? And they'd be like, yeah, I'm down to write a musical about an egg. Sure. That's not a joke, by the way. I've written 2. One's about Humpty Dumpty. One's about, if you leave an egg in a pan to boil for too long, it will explode. If you've got ADHD and forget it's there. Yeah. I think that's not it. It's still on the ceiling. And one day I'm going to have to explain to my landlord. What's that? Oh, that's the egg. We don't talk about the egg. It's just the egg.
This has become part of the scenery.
It's part of the house. When they're here, just be, and that's the egg on the ceiling. Yeah, we feel it adds texture.
Bit of character, yeah.
Yeah, well lived and well loved. I met my friend Daisy because she was trying to create a community for non-men, so women and non-binary people, to go to gigs, just walk to and from shows without being harassed or followed or fun stuff, or asked if their guitar belongs to their boyfriend, which has happened more than once.
Jesus, yeah. My
boyfriend is an astrophysicist, so no.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's me. My friend Daisy is also a physicist and the drummer's a chemist. I'm surrounded by scientists and I'm like, I majored in jazz hands. Yeah, it's about finding people. And I think the more honest you are with the people you work with, and it's not just musicians, it's promoters, it's managers, it's everyone, you will find out who wants the community to be safe and who doesn't. Because now I'm trying to do that thing where it's like I treat my own case how I treat all of my friends' cases, because most of the people you'll know will have some sort of sexual assault story, and they all have to run into the people who didn't get convictions and weren't arrested, and I protect them. I make sure that they're not going to have to run into them. They tell promoters they work with, please don't put me in the same room as this person here, please don't do this, please don't do that. And it's about doing that for myself and hoping that it doesn't cause too many problems. It does. Being marketed as difficult to work with. But I read somewhere it's like women, not a woman, but whatever, women who are difficult to work with are normally the ones that speak their mind. And I think it's about destroying the phrase difficult to work with normally means you just want respect and safety. It's the same with me saying, oh, do you mind moving to a different venue that doesn't have stairs because I'm going to need my walking stick this week and I don't fancy doing all of that. And apparently that's like a massive problem. Well, why would you need chairs?
Yeah.
It's
like you have to be like perpetually adaptable. Yeah.
Making safe, accessible things is a big part of what I do, and it's hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually, like, what's there ever consideration of like moving somewhere else or like going to a different scene, or do you think like you're committed because you're based in Liverpool, right? So are you committed to kind of like I guess making experiences for women and non-binary people to be kind of like better in the Liverpudlian music scene, or how do you feel about that?
Liverpool is massive, so Liverpool will always be fine on its own because it's got a huge music scene, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else because there's just so many opportunities and stuff, and there's a lot of programs, which is why I'm lucky enough to get where I am, which help women and non-binary artists. Like shout out to We Want Women, who gave me my first ever gig before I was even trans, and then went, yeah, we'll keep you anyway.
That's good.
And I was like, yeah, nice. And like they've supported me for 4 or 5 years, and they do a show every month showcasing new women, new artists, and it's absolutely like everything. We had one when I went to, we had poetry, and then a mad science doctor, which did like comedy science stuff, and it's there are so many wonderful things in Liverpool. So I'd love to sort of take it wider, because my partner is from Bristol. I've started working with people from Bristol, and because I've got family in Ireland, I need to go back over to say hi and do some. I was like, I've got to go over to do some family stuff, because a lot of funerals we couldn't go to.
Sure.
But I might as well work while I'm over there. But I don't think they have a music scene in Bantry. I think they're still trying to rebuild the post office. So I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, imagine trying to host. No, I don't, as much as I think I have got that Scouse thing though, where I was like, I can't be anywhere else. Like having a partner who's a Southerner made me realise just how different the rest of the country is.
Yeah.
Southerners are weird, and Scousers are a different sort of friendly, and you know, I don't know if I could do the personal stuff I do everywhere else. We'll see. I'm playing some shows in Bristol in January, but I, as much as I'd love to bring, you know, the things I do, the things I want to do, making accessible gigs. I did a sensory friendly gig, so we had earplugs and loads of fidget toys, and it was as accessible as it could be for wheelchairs and disabled.
That's really cool, yeah.
It was great, and it, you know, it wasn't hard to organise. For everyone saying, "Oh, we just couldn't do it," really wasn't hard.
Yeah,
it took less than a day to find a venue. And because I have quite a lot of disabled friends, it wasn't that hard to go, lads, hypothetically, what do we need to make a safe space? Right. And it took it took 3 days to plan what I've been told is impossible. Yeah. Like Sound City this year was the least accessible it had ever been. I went to go try and use the disabled bathroom, and they'd lock them all, which meant, So I was playing the stage out front in the garden, and one of the poets was in a wheelchair, and we were talking about this, and he goes, I can't drink any more water. They've locked the disabled toilet, so I can't go. And I'm like, right, well, we're dealing with this because I'm about to have 3 pints. I deserve the right to go for a piss.
Right.
And it took... So I walk out into the student union, because it was in one of the student buildings, which meant I knew where the disabled toilet was meant to be. Put in the toilet, the woman was like, don't know why it's locked. Had to go backstage round upstairs to staff toilets, which I didn't know they were there because they're not public. It took about 30 minutes, a route that wasn't accessible for the wheelchair, and it also meant I had to go backstage, and there were acts that recognised me, and they were like, oh, are you playing this stage? I'm like, nah, I'm trying to go for a piss, mate. Sorry.
Yeah.
I maybe sometime. And then the woman waited outside so she could lock the door after I left, and I'm like, I mean...
they still locked it?
Yeah, immediately after I was finished. And I'm like, if some non-disabled person magically manages to find this toilet, get through the security of the barricades, you know, good job, let them use it. If they've gone to that.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, and I'm like, unless there's as much as I'm not a fan of people using disabled toilets who don't need them and disabled parking spaces that don't need them, closing them completely destroys, you know, any object for the people who do need them. Like I personally don't mind having to wait. Most of us can like deal with that. Yep. We'd rather have something accessible at all. Yeah, Sound City this year was absolutely the worst. Please let me play. Please don't let me play. No, but it's things like
I can simp this out if you want.
Yeah, a lot of like look what's listed buildings. So like, oh, we can't add a wheelchair and a lift in, or we can't do that, or we can't do that. I'm like, okay, well, how about moving gigs, like doing gigs like in the mid-ground where you can do the open mics. This is not targeting any venue, whatever. Where you do the open mics where you don't need, oh, there's still steps to go in. Okay, well, there's things called portable ramps. They cost anywhere between 30 and a couple of £100. But I've got one downstairs. I will physically bring it 7 a.m. every day to make sure that a wheelchair user can get into your bar. It's like, oh, beautiful quote from the Doctor Who special, "Don't make me the problem." When one of the characters is sitting there in a wheelchair and there's stairs. And they go, there's no lift. And she's like, "Don't make me the problem, you deal with it." which is my biggest thing of people. Yeah, people tend to paint accessibility as, you know, an issue rather than a right.
Hmm.
And that goes for everything. Like, some people need to sit down again. I loved moshing in my youth. I
Yeah.
say that like I'm not 20, but I can't do it anymore. I've got a bad back.
Yeah.
I need a walking stick. So I don't fancy dislocating, you know, 3 different joints in my body. But you know, it's that attitude of, oh, you there, get up. If you must be standing up to enjoy this music, you must be screaming. You
Yeah.
know, why do you have earphones in? It's not part of the experience. Well, I for one don't like being deaf.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's weird how like people get kind of contentious about that. It's like if you're wearing earplugs, like
people
who
get
gives a
so
shit?
annoyed.
It's weird. Yeah, I know. I noticed that too. It's like just leave me alone.
Let me wear earplugs, please.
It's like I'm not harming anyone. Um, yeah, and actually, one thing I wanted to ask because you were kind of like mentioning about like kind of because like there's a similar thing they do here in Ireland where it's like there's a lot of like great kind of like showcases for like female bands and there's like great
Yeah.
showcases for like and you know just safe gigs for women and stuff which is great but like I think like I wonder about like the kind of
About
inclusion.
200 years ahead of us.
Yeah, but I wonder like about the inclusion of non-binary people now, of kind of like you know, because you're kind of like mentioning like how, you know, kind of like once you kind of like you know kind of like sorry found the scene there that people are very accommodating, but like I think like it would be great to kind of see that too, where it's like you know, um women and non-binary. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like that kind of
that
inclusion too.
quite a lot. And I've been proud to, there's quite a few groups where I'm the only non-binary member, and they've
Mm,
gone, oh, we do accept non-binary people, but we're called women in such and such, or women
yeah.
in this. And I get it because it's a lot easier, you know, especially the way things are now with trans people being used as a scapegoat, which we could lose an hour on how, you know, no one noticed trans people, and the second we started getting acceptance, they were like, right, we're scapegoating these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's been a very grim year to be a trans person, especially a young trans person. But
Mhm.
they, it's always inclusive, and it tends to be, if people want to try and help women get into music, they tend to not have a problem if you're not a woman.
Mhm.
Like, we did a gig for International Women's Day, organized by the wonderful Daisy Doyle, my best friend and bass player. And it was targeted for women and non-binary people, anyone femme presenting. It was just no men.
Yeah.
No offense, but it was just cis men. Nah, and you
Fair.
know, nothing against cis men. I'm in
Yeah.
love with one of them, but like, still, we've had enough of you.
Yeah.
You know, there's only so many wannabe Matty Healey's or Alex Turner's, you know, you can deal with. There's only so many guys who are going to stare intensely at you while they solo for 5 minutes and fuck with their fucking loop pedal, which for some reason they brought to an open mic because people care. I don't like, it's that thing where it's like, people always say quite a lot to women and trans people, where do you get the confidence? And I'm like, I just have the smidge amount of unearned confidence that 90% of men do.
Right.
Leave me be.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, that's like a really good point too, where it's like you still see that like I don't know, it's very weird because like a lot like artists I go to like would like have at least one woman in the band, if not like I've been to plenty of like all female bands as well, and you know non-binary people are starting to make like I think like in the Dublin music scene a very like noticeable um impression and but yet there's still this weird like condescension like it seems like being a woman or being non-binary is still seen as somewhat of a novelty. It's very strange to me because like it's not
yeah,
like new, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's quite funny because everyone, yeah, it isn't new, but people are always that vaguely like you're an alien. I played a gig with a mental health charity called Be Free, who are great. They like help me with loads of stuff. But my friend Guy was the only cis man on that set list, and everyone else was an MB. And his name was actually Guy, and he was like, "I'm finally, it finally happened. I am the token white guy." And it was the happiest of thing. So I was like, oh my god, these 2 other acts are non-binary. I don't have to explain anything on stage.
Yeah.
I don't have to hammer home my pronouns.
Yeah.
You know, I have a a massive they them badge for my open mic guitar strap, just
Hmm.
because people kept getting it wrong. People who've known me for like 5 years, and I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
it's not that hard. It
Yeah.
really isn't that hard. I'm sick of pretending I'm sick of being like, oh, I'm sorry, it's okay, it's hard. It's actually not.
No. No, and
Yeah.
actually that's the cool thing about like the kind of queer spaces that are being like because I notice when I go to like kind of like gigs that are like specifically like advertised as being like queer friendly spaces, that like you do notice that like I don't know, people just are kind of cooler about that stuff. Like it's not
Yeah.
like it's not like
Yeah.
we have
Okay.
to like spend time
We
talking
are
about it.
though.
Yeah.
No offense to cis straight people, but it's
Yeah.
just like it's that like that, and I don't have many neurotypical friends. I'm on the spectrum. I'm neurodivergent, and I love it.
Yeah.
But oh god, I hate small talk. Like I'd permanently skip the hi, how you doing? What have you been up to recently? For someone just running straight to me and going, "What do you think about volcanoes?" Like, like that would be a much more enjoyable 5 minutes
Yeah.
than finding what type of dog food you just bought or something completely like. But we do tend to be more fun or just like more enjoyable. So I went to a queer open mic called Get It Off Your Chest, which is hosted in Liverpool, and it's great. And I went to this room filled with queer people who were all covered in glitter and colourful, and they come straight up to me and my partner, who's lovely but cis straight man, who's like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
they know I'm straight. Yes, honey. Everyone within 10 yards knows, okay? Yeah, but no, it is just a lot nicer. There's no, well, there is, obviously. We're gonna be cattier. There's,
Yeah.
no group is perfect, obviously, but
Right.
when we're with our own people in our own space, it does feel kinder and nicer, and it restores my faith in humanity.
Yeah.
It feels more restful than doing anything else. So if I do like a queer open mic or a queer only gig, it feels like taking a 3 hour long break from having to mask my autism, having to explain my pronouns every 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I can just exist.
Yeah.
I can just be, and no one's gonna ask, and I'm not special here. I'm not the alien, no one's gonna ask me a question. I'm gonna have to speak for all trans people or all people with uteruses or whatever.
Sure.
Like, it's very fun. um I don't know, I do think it's better. I mean, by the sounds of it, I should move to Dublin. My first pride was in Cork. My nan took me, and it was the most beautiful thing. She ironed my pride flag,
Oh.
and then sat there. And so she sat there. And Pride that year was sponsored by Smirnoff and Nando's. And in hindsight, my nan should not have let a 14-year-old wander off into this group of drunk gays.
Yeah.
And she just sort of, she just sat there. And then we went county to county doing all of the prides. And they were like, who's that one? I'm like, oh, that's just me nan. She's just sitting there vibing.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm
Yeah,
waiting for someone to hand her a pint, leave her alone.
yeah, that's interesting about like Pride. Yeah, they over here like for some reason like yeah, they do it on different days. So like Dublin would do it one day, Cork another, like do the Pride parades
I
and
know
like different
why.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
I know why. It's just because the queer history is one thing I love, and Irish queer history is fucking hilarious. God, you have so many queer members of the royal family. Before we came and took it from you, you were banging. But
your sound,
no,
I won't
so
hold it against you.
There was. God, I mean, my nan does on a daily basis. But she, so because it's obviously small country, less people, so they used to have to just gang together. They were like, right, we've only got 10 gays in this village, so the 10 gays get on a coach and host Pride in this county, and then they pick up that 10 gays and they were the next one, and it was just to make sure there was strength and safety in numbers,
right?
And it also meant you could sort of cover it quite easily. You could be like, I'm following a band on tour. What's the band? Oh, I don't know, the Village People. Like, yeah, it's a really sweet thing how an entire country decides to band together to protect their community and make it a tradition that still carries on to this day. Yeah. Irish prides are better. Irish pride's great. Manchester pride's great. Liverpool Pride at the minute, the sponsorships are getting more and more. Like,
yeah, okay.
I'm looking around being like, why are there Barclays Pride flags everywhere?
Yeah.
And there was like, they tend to be the ones that book the acts and stuff. So I've been to Pride gigs with straight cis people, and I'm like, yay! Just because you play Lady Gaga doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah,
I think like that kind of corporate pride, like we see it here a little bit, but actually what was interesting was recently, I think like a couple of corporations, especially in the States, like started pulling out of like pride, which was like kind of, it's a weird thing because like I'm kind of like against like the corporate pride in the same way that everyone else is, but like The one thing I do, the kind of silver lining I see of it is that, like, well, if corporations, like these big corporations who are afraid to make any political declaration, feel comfortable enough sponsoring Pride, then it's probably a good sign for kind of queer rights going forward. But then at the same time, I was looking at like a bunch of the sponsors like pulling out this year, and it kind of like made me worry. It's like shit, like are we kind of regressing a bit, you know?
Yeah, everyone says, are we going backwards? But I think now with recognition is going to come backlash. So trans people have existed freely. Like an example I saw on Twitter, there is a Coronation Street character, and I don't watch Corrie.
Yeah, neither do I.
But yeah, Rory's wife, Rory, who runs a cafe, lovely character, whatever. His wife had a full transition. This is in the 90s, a full TV show storyline about a trans person, and it was never mentioned. Never heard it brought up again. Never bothered. And then now recently we cut to 2023, and Doctor Who using the they them pronoun in the thing is seen as like unhinged and insane. I'm like, how did we get to this point?
Right.
Like, I played HMV, and it was a week after a stabbing of a young trans girl, really not far from Liverpool. And I was like, I have a microphone. I have to say something to this room of people who just wandered in. That there was a vigil still lit because one person came and relit the candles every morning for a teenage girl who was killed by other teenage girls because of the change in the political, viewpoint of people have seen something different and gone, sticks, grab your puck, like forks and pitchforks. Now it's an issue, whereas like people always talk about, protect the children. When I was a kid, one day I wanted to be a dinosaur. One day I wanted to be this. People talk about saying we're forcing stuff on children. Children don't care. They're the best people on earth. It's why I work with young people. They're like, children and the elderly both have zero fucks to give, because one's lived too long, one's not lived enough. One's not lived enough to care, one's lived too long to care. Which means I am lucky enough to have been around a woman who I can bring pretty much whoever to my door. Like, I've come home from a night out and there's been 3 drag queens, like me, a new partner, their new partner around. They're like, I'll stick the kettle on. When if you need any drinks. Yeah, I don't know why. I honestly, scapegoating. Why it's become so hard, but it does make me feel more proud to be who I am. Because if it was when I was a teenager, I would have been wrecked, because like me coming out didn't go well. I couldn't imagine being trans when I was a teenager. I came out as gay before I came out as trans. And I couldn't, if I didn't have had the community that I walked out into, I would have been lost. And it, as much as publicly, it may seem really bad, it's just making our safe spaces stronger and stronger. And the more, we sort of push back on, the more I realize, there's more and more of us. Yeah. And one thing I've discovered from a trans group chat I love and I'm a part of, the trans is game nights. We have a game night once a month. We like playing D&D. Everyone's wondering about what the terrifying trans community are up to.
Playing D&D.
Hats. Yeah, D&D. Quite a big fan of frogs, potted plants, Yeah. Wanting to be left alone is what the trans community are up to.
Yeah, it's because we see like a similar kind of scapegoating here, and it's like the unfortunate thing is like I think like you have like kind of pushes for more sort of like trans inclusive or just like queer inclusive sex education in schools, for example. And like as soon as you suggest that, like a bunch of like bigots will just like stand outside schools just like complaining and shit. So it's like it's a weird thing where it's like, on the one hand it's like, I think the people who are in opposition to progress seem to be getting louder, but I think like with that kind of regressive force also comes the kind of opposite, where it's like it also emboldens people who are maybe sort of passively pro LGBTQ rights to actually kind of get emboldened and sort of go, okay, like I need to actually, so I think it's like it's a bit of a give and take, and it's obviously a horrible situation to be in when you have like the Tories, for example, like just scapegoating trans people for their like failures and shit. But like at the same time, it is nice to see that it is radicalizing people to actually get more involved and to actually show solidarity in a way.
Yeah, it was really nice when speaking of the current Prime Minister, when he appeared and decided to be like, men are men, women are women. Don't talk about the NHS. We're going to blame people for wanting to go for a piss. Like, when all that happened, I put something off my story going, yes, I'm trans, and no, I don't want to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, it's not our responsibility, it's cis people's.
Hmm.
If cis people are going to make us a problem, then it's the problem of the non-bigoted cis people to fix it. I'm, it shouldn't be on for us to explain, read a book. It's the
Yeah,
same with any sort of bigotry. Read a book, learn, or ask questions that aren't rude.
yeah,
Like obvious stuff that we tell children. People say, think of the children. A child's never come up to me and gone, what's in your pants?
right.
And I'm like, your mom every Thursday? Like, um, like I don't know.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a weird
it's
invasive
not our
prodding that
problem.
people. It's like a weird invasive prodding that people think they're entitled to know. Um, I wonder sometimes, like my kind of like question is like I think like um I don't know like what the answer would be, like better sort of vocal representation in terms of like the media, because like I think like the media like can have these like quote unquote national conversations that are also important about trans people, but then like if you were to talk about like any like group of people, we'd know exactly what that is, like but like we have to kind of question the existence of trans people and all this. I just think there needs to be kind of like a better, personally, like to some degree, I think, because like I think when you start to know like trans people in your personal life, you kind of like it's hard to kind of fall for the bigoted lines,
Yeah.
let's say.
And you
But
realize they just need a shut the fuck up button. We need to discuss the existence of trans people. We exist, always have.
yeah,
Bzzz.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, are trans women women? Yes. You probably know one and don't know about it. Bzzz.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and it is making it harder for people, I think, to kind of come out when you just have like the sort of I don't know, just like the commonplace kind of bigotry, to like this weird, like acceptable level of bigotry that's like, and it's not even just like, arguing against rights. It's even like, like bullshit I identify as jokes and all that crap.
yeah. We're allowed to make them, y'all aren't. Like, I identify as fucking done,
Right.
and that's because of everyone else's bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
because it became a thing where it was like, in the when did I come out? I was accidentally outed at a gig
Oh,
4 years ago.
Jesus.
Completely
Oh,
accidentally.
okay, okay.
So in the nicest possible way it could have
Sure.
been done. When I was outed in high school, it was deliberate, it was public, and it was horrible. But this was
Yep.
great, and my family were like, Have you forgotten to tell us something?" And I was like, "Oh." It was genuinely me going, "Oh shit, you're the people I forgot to tell.
Right.
Damn it." And then it was fine. They were like, "Oh, that's just Lydia. Okay." And then 2 years later, when people started seeing the jokes and it was on the telly, people started asking questions and they felt entitled for details about me and who I was that
Sure.
they never would have asked before they'd seen it on Loose Women or whatever.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know when it became a debate to exist
Yeah.
and when it became something I had to prove. It's the same as like the idea of passing. I don't what so for if people don't know, passing is the whole thing of like they must look like what. It's completely relative. It's if you see someone in the street, do they look enough like a man to you or enough like a woman, or do they look enough like neither that you can accept that? Where
Right.
it's like, you don't have to be bind to be androgynous. You don't have to have short hair. You don't have to have long hair or wear makeup or do whatever. We don't have to pierce one side of our ear to prove who we are anymore. Like, yes, maybe some queer people do have a look. I certainly have one. I've been wearing flannel since I was 12, and you'll never take that away from me. But like, not to scare you, but we're everywhere. We always have been. And if you don't like that, be afraid. Be very afraid. We deserve it. Um,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be
Um,
allowed
I want to talk about your music, to go back to it now.
to.
I want to talk about your new single, so the name they gave us. This was sorry.
Yeah, just yay. It's done quite well. It's done quite well. I'm happy with it.
Actually, I want to talk about
Yeah.
the sort of musicality of it, because I believe you started writing this when you were 16. It's sort of a song you brought back from when you were a teenager, and I want to talk actually a bit about how the composition has changed, because like when you listen to the song, like there's a lot of piano, acoustic guitar, string arrangements.
Yeah.
I was wondering like how to actually kind of begin life as a song.
It was originally just me and my guitar. It was recorded in this room on a laptop that no longer exists anymore
Yeah.
on Audacity, and it was released on SoundCloud. And that demo still exists, and I still really like it. You know, it's very, very GCSE. And I'm trying stuff, and there's stuff I still put on my songs now, like the vinyl crackle effect
Yeah.
and things like that. But it was very me, and it wasn't given as much love as it should have been at the time because I didn't let it. You know, my friend at the time was sort of trying to be like, "This is a good song," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, he doesn't like it, so put it under the rug. We don't talk about it." You know, I messed up. And it's also a song that should have got me diagnosed with BPD like a lot earlier. Like my current therapist listened to my music and went, "Oh," and I was like, "No, you're not meant to do that. You're meant to be impartial. No." But the songs, so I worked with a wonderful session musician called Alfredo Reed, and I sent him the piano loop, a rough idea for strings, which is it's all syndicated. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Sorry. And then we did the guitar, and then the extra guitars, it might be bass, sorry Joe, we'll put on after Alfredo had remotely worked on like a rough instrumental, and then I'd added my bits in and knew what I wanted to do with it. I went to Joe Sage, who did the vocal mix, so I went down to his house and he lets me record vocals in his room. And lovely fella, and he added in extra guitars, and he was right, it needed it, and it sounds sick. Yeah. You know, during the bridge, he's all like, dun dun. That's Joe. And he did a beautiful mix, and then yeeted it over to his like partner in crime, Stephen Kerrison, who did the master. Who I didn't realize how awesome mastering actually is. I thought it was just make it louder, and to an extent, it is just make it louder. But boy, do they do it well! Yeah. So it was, yeah. I still play it live how I wrote it. There's been a couple of lyric changes just because some stuff were too specific. Okay. Like some stuff was very much going to be clearly it's about this person, and I wasn't ready for that yet. So a couple of lyrics. So originally, look at the way we're behaving was, but now we both need saving, because that was when I was first on the internet, it was that like Tumblr, you know, oh, I need someone to save me, and it's all black and white thinspo pictures that gave me an eating disorder, like fun crap like that comes out in things like that. And now I'm like, oh no, I'm good. The whole princess thing was way overrated. Switch it to something more accurate and more relevant, which is look at the way we're behaving. Because despite the fact that we were 20 at the time, like of me re-recording it, me and this guy were both 20, we were still acting like we were 16. Right. And, you know, like that life or death thing had sort of never ended. And if I can't be with you, you know, if I can't have you, no one else can. Very fun, normal stuff, you know, because we're Batman. But have you ever seen me and Batman in a room together? It was filmed in Liverpool. Yeah, the song, it was more the after of the song. So I worked with a wonderful PR human called Bex Marketer, who approached me on social media, was lucky enough to write a review for my song On Your Mind, and then wanted to work with me. And she worked so hard pushing it to people, and it's got so many different like reviews and stuff that have brought me to tears, and people being like, it's nostalgic, it's meaningful. And I'm like, it was written when I was 16. Yep. And I said I put it out as a thing for self-love, and it was sort of really kind to have that be given back to me. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was sort of like therapy, having people realize, have it be as important to other people as it was to me. Like, I thought it was just a little contained thing. But, my sister called me at a really terrible moment. But she called me, and she was crying. She had a bit to drink, but whatever. And she was sobbing about my new song. I was like, I've just heard it. It's beautiful. It's the best thing you've ever done. And I'm like, but it was the first thing I'd ever done. And it's just that thing I was talking about of like, oh, there is room to grow and you're allowed to do that. But if I hadn't made that first demo, if I hadn't put it out, if it hadn't been what it was, then I wouldn't be here. There isn't like, you don't get where you are without putting out the bad stuff and letting people hear it. But it's whether or not, you know, the culture we have of everything having to be perfect allows that anymore. Yeah. And it does, because the song's good. There's no denying it was like people have worked really hard on it, you know, and it's made me realize that even if I can just write the words and that little bit of the guitar and take it to other people, that might be enough. Yeah. And I hope that other people learn that, you know, you can just make crap, put out crap. put it on Spotify, try and get it on the radio. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because with everything, we're all gonna die anyway, and no one's listening.
Yeah.
Like Amy Walsh, whoever you are, another like wonderful Scottish Irish descendant legend, just went, Lydia, no one's fucking listening.
Yeah.
Like, be honest, no one's fucking listening. What are they gonna do? Put it out? Like the song I'm really scared to put a Perfect Crime has a bridge. And what was I wearing? Oh God. And what was I wearing? Well, who needs to know? All that matters is I fucking said no, and you know I did. And everyone was like, oh, you can't say that. You can't publicly accuse someone of that. And I'm like, nah, I was there. It happened. It's coming out. Who's listening anyway?
Yeah.
And if they do, that's their problem, not mine. You chose to press play. No, I do trigger warnings at gigs. That needs to be a new thing, because music's gotten more and more unfiltered now, in terms of people writing very blunt lyrics and stuff. Like, thinking about the stuff I listened to, like Bring Me the Horizon when I was a teenager, put trigger warnings on that stuff. You know, maybe don't write songs with graphic descriptions of self-harm or abuse without warning people first.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, we worked out a set list for a gig that's coming up, and I'm playing an acoustic version of the names that they gave us, and then there's just a minute where I explain the next song and say, anyone who needs to leave the room, please, like, leave the room. You know, I'm because that song isn't for, I reckon, art about the difficult stuff, depression or whatnot. You can listen to it if you've gone through it and feel validated, but I'd argue that for the most point, it's for people who haven't experienced it, who don't need to relive all that stuff. They just need to learn about it. So if you have gone through it, I don't want to come in and start sticking the knife in unless you want that catharsis. Everyone should get an out.
It's a very good point, because, like, yeah, and even, like, from the artist's perspective, it's very strange, because, like, I think when people have trauma, it's like, to some degree, it's like you could play a song like One Night, let's say, that's written about like a personal experience, and it's like and you're able to deliver it just fine, but then other times it's going to have more emotional resonance. So it's very difficult, because like you can't even necessarily predict your own reaction to what you're saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's always a thing where if I see someone crying in the audience, I'll cry.
Yeah.
If you want to cry at my shows, like, go ahead. It's beautiful. Do what you want. And also, more people should cry. Crying is good. We can't control it. It's meant to happen.
Right.
There's a biological reason why we do it. But it will set me off. Like, it will absolutely break me. I feel like, no, I'm sorry. No. Or when people give me the look of, I know what this is about, I'm like, no, you should have been protected. Come here, I give you a hug. I'll go hit them with sticks. Like, it used to be, I'll hit you with a chair. Now it's, I'll hit you with sticks, which becomes a bit more threatening when I have a walking stick with me, and I'm like, yep. Wait until I get one with a sword in it, then it's over for everyone.
I want to talk actually two things, kind of like about this new updated version of the song that you were kind of mentioning. So the first thing I want to talk about is, like, you were kind of mentioning, like, initially the original version of the song potentially having like kind of, what would you call it, like sort of toxic traits, let's say, for that you might have internalized from things like Tumblr or something like that. I was wondering, like, then do you find like revisiting songs kind of gives you the opportunity to reevaluate kind of what was in your kind of head at any given time, and to maybe try and like course correct that? And do you find there's any kind of like responsibility in terms of, like, you know, what you're actually putting out in terms of like you know, because you can never tell how other people are going to react to what you're saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is weird looking back at some of the old stuff I've written. It just comes off as immature, but I definitely think there's a responsibility, because I wanted to originally release the RAP song without any warning and have it just hit people smack bang in the middle of the EP, and I'm like, that would break me. I've got to think, if it was a stranger, it's, my rule is always, how's my dad gonna feel listening to this, which is what you tell young people about putting stuff on social media, but it's true. Like, my nan will listen to these songs. My nan's learned how to use Facebook now. She started commenting on my posts. It's adorable, but it means when I put depressing stuff up there, my nan, who's in the front room, you know, sees it and knows about stuff going on, and it's not it can't be personal when you make it public. And there needs to be some sort of line. I'm still trying to find it, because a lot of it is your own relationship with social media now has become like your own relationship with your therapist. Like, it's incredibly complicated how much stuff you want to share, for like good reason. I've got a lot of backlash online for just existing or having boobs. You know, wonderful things you can't control. God, I did a thing for cancer research, like a check your chest thing, and I did really well. But in that thing, I grabbed my tit, and the internet men went wild. Men I didn't know existed from corners of the world appeared to tell me their opinions. It was great. Next time I'll just stand on a mountain and announce it like Jesus. But no, there needs to be a responsibility because, like, whether we like it or not, people under 12 are on social media. Everyone clicks the box that says, are you over 18? Yep. Like, there are toddlers with iPads. It's a serious conversation. It shouldn't be on the personal level. There should be strict things that cover, like, certain things. Like, you can't use suicide as a hashtag. Right. So now we call it sewer slide. Right. Like, funny TikToks and stuff. But yeah, there's a place for that, because if there wasn't a suicide hashtag, 13-year-old me wouldn't have scrolled down it being like, hypothetically, just how would I? Like, you know, it takes away that massive danger, because my niece is going to grow up with the internet. You know, my whatever other kids and future children and tiny humans, the young people I work with and my friends work with, they grew up on the internet. The young people I work with have Googled me more than once and then asked about it in work. And I'm like, it is a very real representation of like, it's not the void. People see it. Oh, it's my partner. People see it. People like recognize it. It's there. You can't hide it. Your mum's going to read it. Your dad will find it. Like, it's the same with if you ever feel bad about your numbers, picture everyone just in a room staring at you while you're, you know, holding your phone, posting a selfie or playing your music or whatever. 60 people online doesn't seem like a lot. In a room, it's a ton of people, especially in this room. Jesus. Like, it's the same with if you're going to post a depressing meme, like, know that your closest friends will see it and either laugh, or some of my friends are nice and will either respond with same or like, are you okay? But like, it's a thing of people will see it. There's no point in screaming out into the void, because it's not the void. It's not the void anymore. It's permanent. Like, my boss sees all the stuff I post. I have to explain all my music stuff to my boss, because I work for the council. Like, I work for a serious adult job where I have safeguarding stuff, and my mum has a job where, you know, things we do are monitored occasionally for certain reasons. But it means I have to like be like, hi, so I will be posting a graphic Instagram reel of me being intimate with another female. Right. See you on Monday, Sharon. Like, it's bizarre, but it's real.
I guess one final thing I'll ask is, like, you were talking about like kind of like how working on the kind of production on this one, like as you mentioned, like you were working with Audacity, and I actually have experience with Audacity myself, and I always found it like quite interesting how like very kind of like user friendly it is. Like, it's very easy to kind of adapt to. As
the original demo made in Audacity, you know, you can do stuff on there, and for a tool to learn, like, we used it in school before we moved on to, I think most people use GarageBand now. Yeah. Because like Mac is everywhere. And then everything else was done on Logic, and you know, the future demo was done on all the adult stuff, because as you grow up, you have to update your software and learn to do new stuff. And I'm now learning how to use Logic, because I've got a Mac product and I've got to keep up with, you know, my studio uses Logic, the producer uses Logic. I need to get used to all that jazz. Don't like change. Change said no, but it's good. Audacity, you know what? Use it, work with it. There are no shame in using free stuff and Googling free plugin or downloading samples from YouTube, because, you know, the second we make it that bar of it must have this much quality to be a good song, we are essentially saying it must have this much money behind it to be a good song. You must have this much money and this much privilege to be a good artist. So if we take away the free stuff, because even having a laptop is a massive privilege. Yeah. Like, when you think of scale, the higher we make the bar, the harder we make it for everyone. Use Audacity, use your phone, like Notes app, the recording app on your phone. You know, they should make is there an Audacity app yet?
I actually don't know. That'd be nice. Yeah. Actually, I think it'd be quite difficult to use on like a
It would
phone.
break it.
I
I
bet.
mean, it
Yeah.
the crashing is a definite problem
Yeah.
when you're trying to fully make music on Audacity. Like BandLab is an online free one, Cakewalk, I think it's also called.
Hmm?
Like, there's no shame in googling free DAWs and using like I don't and it is good. You can do a lot of stuff on Audacity.
No, you really can. Yeah.
Like auto tune. They've got all of the presets. They're just not as finely tuned as they would be on, something you're gonna pay a couple of £100 for. But so what?
Yeah. No, it actually
I
is a very
still
like.
record all of my demos. I still record into Audacity
Yeah.
just because it's easier to run and then export those files onto something else because it's easy and it's the way I've always done it. And God, now that is out, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anyone who hears any of the demos I send in the future because they'll know now. But it works. I don't care. It works. I think there's something on Your Mind, which is one of the songs, and you can hear the sound of the woman next to me in the bathroom stall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just there. Yeah, and I didn't want to get rid of it because I'm like, well, we can't re-record that sample of a tap dripping, unless you want to break the tap in the studio. So live with it.
When it comes to, well, I was gonna ask, like, when it kind of comes to like doing things that like now where you're working with other producers, like as you're kind of like mentioning, like the song kind of grew from the production of working with other people. Now, how do you find like working with external producers versus like when you were doing things all yourself? How do you think the kind of experience differs, I guess?
God, I should have learned music theory in school. I should have learned more stuff. I should have written down the things from the YouTube tutorials I was watching and learnt the names. I should have learnt to label files as piano one instead of gay shit. Like, um, the piano file for On Your Mind is just labeled as gay piano. And it's gay piano because my little keyboard in my room is named, oh God, what do we name? We named him Nathaniel.
Okay.
They're a wonderful trans polyamorous man. Yeah, all of my instruments have names. Yeah, it is difficult, but it's solely because I have the funds to do it, which is something people don't admit. You paid these people, or if you didn't, you fucking should.
Right.
Like, even when I'm working with friends, I make sure they're bloody paid because it's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
Like, there was a photo shoot recently with Paul where he was, who did all of those beautiful pictures of me in the park. And he was like, you don't need to cover for this. And I'm like, but that's wrong. You spend time and money and effort. No.
Yeah.
Which also could be that's also a me issue. I don't let people do a lot of stuff for me. But working with Joe, working with Stephen, spending the money, is it worth it? Yes. Do you need it? No. Because your music is just as valid no matter how much or how little money you spend on it. Time's a different thing. But time and effort is a different thing. And you can never, all the money in the world will not replace effort and talent, I hope, with the rise of AI. I really hope.
Yeah.
But like, Joe is fantastic to work with. He's really comfortable. I originally went to him because I had loads of demos that I'd worked out with, like, during COVID on my phone that were brilliant instrumentals, but I couldn't record them in my bedroom because I got too self-conscious and I'd lose genuinely years to my own vocals. Like, the reason Swear to Me That Love Was Always Blind, other than all the abuse stuff, took 4 years because I didn't like the sound of my own voice.
Right.
And it's when you take that away, it's essentially giving someone the power to go, nope, we stop now.
Yep.
Which is what, like, and Joe's just incredibly talented on its own, and he will be honest to say when things don't work out or you need this. But it was more having someone take things out of my own hands or say that's enough, or we can handle this, or we can do it, because objectively they are better than me. Like, I don't write bass parts anymore because Daisy can do it because she's a bass player and she can write them. Like, I'm not going to sit there with my guitar and write something that I've learned can be quite insulting. I'm sorry for all the root notes and the same 3 chords. I'm sorry, guys. It's the same with, like, drums. A drummer doesn't want to play 4/4, for a 30-minute set. He might as well just, I don't want anyone who works with me to feel like they could be replaced with a balloon or a stick or a robot or an on button. A studio engineer isn't just there to press on and off and set up mics.
Yeah.
Everyone, the second you invite someone onto your team, you've got to be ready to have, like, their opinions and their stuff, and they're good. because why wouldn't they be? If they're not good, don't work with them.
Yeah.
You know, or find people that make you feel good. Like, this song wouldn't be what it was if I hadn't collaborated with the people I had, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
And they're nice people, and for men, they're nice. Men in the music industry, they're good, safe people. Because the reason I found Joe and then therefore found Stephen was because I messaged my friend Lauren and was like, do you know any producers who aren't going to grope me? And she was like, yeah, here you go. Here's the list. And I was like, okay. Yeah, we're currently debating that list into a Google Drive file that people can like actually add stuff to and have it be a thing. Like, the black book of dodgy men. I don't know. No offense to men. Like, there's a reason we say be trans, throw hands. But yeah, I'm glad that you know that, and that's not be gay, be trans, throw hands. Yeah, but no, collaboration is good. I think at some point you need to step away from being alone in your bedroom. If you want people to listen to it, you've got to open the door and let people listen to it, because people are going to make it better. Like, with the exception of the drunk man at the open mic who goes, play something happy, go to another bar, you know?
Right.
That's like, I sent the last mix I did to my friend of mine, Guy, and he made so many great suggestions I would have thought of. Working with people is always going to make stuff better if those people make you happy. If they bring out the best in you, then you'll bring out the best in them.
Yeah, and then also
everything and could go on a poster on a wall. I'm sorry.
No, but I was just gonna say, like, when you kind of have those like collaborators who you're kind of like comfortable with and are kind of on a similar wavelength to you, then it like kind of makes, I think, like future decisions a lot easier. You know what I mean? Because like I think like that initial first step of kind of like reaching out to someone and kind of figuring out, okay, like, will this person get it or will they not? Like, I think once you make those steps and you kind of do get a team that you're comfortable with, it makes kind of future releases easier too.
I like my people.
Yeah.
So like the second I found Arc Studios and Rory, I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And now it's like, can you mix this? Could we come in and do this? Could I come back and do this? And it's because I put my people, and when people are good to work with, and I'm quite unusual. So when people cannot do that, or I can make a terrible, crippling joke about depression and they cannot derail an hour calling a crisis line, then it's great. It's great to work with them in the same way of like, I can faint in the studio and no one panics because we're all used to it by now. Which sounds dangerous. When you're chronically ill, it's not. It's another Tuesday. So I did a rehearsal process once for like a solo show, and my friend made a joke that we should take all the security footage of me fainting in the rehearsal studio and set it to let the bodies hit the floor. Or, like the opening to Hard Knock Life by Annie, which just dun.
That's the other cool thing, like, actually, just about like having like, I don't know, like the, like when you, like, you're talking like, having disabilities and kind of like we're talking about kind of like some of the queer phobia, and like not letting it get cynical about it and still having kind of like a sense of humor and a sense of community about it. I think that's like really nice to see, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I'm not gonna let this shit kind of like knock me down. It's really like inspiring. I think
it's also an entire generation that developed humor as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And now we can only express certain emotions through memes and reels and pictures of raccoons. It's also
it's very strange being sincere, isn't it? Where you're like, oh yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't tell you how I'm feeling, but this raccoon explains it freaking perfectly.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. Maybe it's the eyes. Maybe I just am a raccoon spiritually. I do think I might be a gremlin in disguise. But God, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question. Oh yeah, no, it is funny. Being queer is funny. Being disabled can be crippling. It can also be hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I can do incredible stuff, but I'm defeated by stares.
Right.
Like, it'll be great. I'll stand up too quickly in rehearsal and be like, I've had a great idea. Eureka! Stands up, hits the deck. Because I've got a condition that can make me do that. And it'll be like, it's funny. As long as I'm not injured, it's freaking funny. Yeah. It's like, in the same of like, there's a million ways to use a walking stick. Like, yeah, that sounds bad. I mean, like, I've done Singing in the Rain, sort of Gene Kelly sort of dancing.
I did not get any naughty meme from that.
No. Right, so that's my neighborhood. There's a million ways to do it.
That's a good like EP title.
Oh. I've got a new one. It's got mushroom stickers on it. I'm really excited about it. I put mushrooms. I don't know why. Mushrooms are queer coded now.
Yeah.
Gays own autumn. Has a season. Primark in Liverpool, which now has a Greggs.
Yeah.
Which my partner declared to be the most northern thing on earth. But yeah, Primark in Liverpool has a Greggs. You can have a sausage roll. But they have this section, and it was meant to be an autumn section. I walked in and went, "Baby, it's a lesbian section." He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "There's literally boob candles over there." Like as well as like the reefs and the leaves. Like, this is for the gays. That's the thing. That's the real queer agenda. We just sort of claim stuff, and straight people will never know, but it's for the gays.
Yeah. Yes. The thing is, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Do you cuff your pants? Like, come on. It's not what sexuality are you, it's how long are your earrings? Like,
yeah.
How eccentric is your jewelry? How often do you go to charity shops and buy cardigans?
Yeah.
Do you look like one of the Muppets? Every queer group has one friend that looks like Gonzo from the Muppets. It is unavoidable.
We're giving the straights too much ammo. Too much insight. Too much insight.
It will come at midnight.
I've really enjoyed this conversation a lot. I guess like
I am so sorry.
No, absolutely not. This is great. The final question I was just gonna ask is like just kind of what do you have planned for like 2024? I mean, what's your kind of like future plans? Or just like in general, what do you kind of have coming up?
World domination's up there.
Yeah.
Just decided to have it with all the neurotypicals and straight people. Now,
yeah, fair.
Yep. No, an EP that's finally coming out with the RAP song on it. My first track recorded with a band, like the band, which is a re-recording of a song called You. I'm not meant to be saying this, but who cares? Like it's good. It's so cool. I'm so proud of it. And it's been like that was the most collaboration I've ever done. And it was completely done with other people. And it's mostly other people's work, but it's my song. And I was sort of looking around in the studio, being like, "You're all just here for me. Like you all just said we want to do this with you." Yeah. And they did, and it's beautiful, and they're all so talented. I'm very lucky to have incredibly talented friends. I'm like Professor Slughorn, where I'm like, I will take you. Yeah.
So could I ask, is that kind of like flattering them when you like make all these kind of like songs, and then you have like other people who are just like, yeah, we want to help, like, you know, elevate this too?
It's insane. Like my partner says his favorite two musicians are the Cranberries and me. And I'm like, you don't get to put those two things on the same platform.
Right.
Like, no. And it's the weirdest thing where it went from people listening, my friends listen to my music because they think, you know, they listen to it once when it comes out 'cause it's nice, to it being like they genuinely listen to it every day because they think it's nice, or like they'll write this because they'll think it works, or they'll be like, well, it's your song, what do you think of this? And I'm like, but it's your creation. You're the ones who are doing all the hard work. Like, it's not mine anymore. It's ours. Because of the type of person I am, I'm sort of waiting for them to be like, lol, psych.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly lovely, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and it be like, I don't know, a prank show.
Sure.
Or something too real. Like, life's gotten a bit too good, and I'm looking around going,
yeah.
No, but it's nice. My band are amazing. Everyone I work with is amazing, and I wouldn't have it any other way than to make music with your friends, which is what I really wanted. That's the whole thing about the whole band and the tour, like, thing that I loved as a kid. It was people making music with their friends that I loved. Like, I loved watching the band documentaries.
Yeah.
Especially the Blink-182 ones, if you've seen them.
Yeah.
Of like that, and going, oh, I want that. But what that really is it's not like the crowds and the stadiums. It is just making music with your friends. I'm like, have that now.
Yeah.
And I'm never letting it go. They're mine now. It's not a band. It's a dictatorship. They are trapped in for life. No, I got on quite a few of my friends' Scouts passports. So they're all Southerners. None of them are from Liverpool, and they have little Scouts passports now, which have a little document in that say they need to come back once a year. So they can never leave. Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
but that's what's coming. World domination, lots of good new music. A music video that was filmed last year. I filmed on the music video for On Your Mind less than a week after my aunt was found dead. And I was her carer. So it was a whole different level of awful. And It was one of those things I look back and went, oh, the reason I'm holding off on this is not because I don't think it's good enough or because I don't like it or because it's not right. It's because it's literal footage of me grieving. Because I refused, I couldn't stop. There was too many stuff, like we'd booked a hotel room, it was a whole thing. But it was like, I was asked to cry on cue and it was about 11 o'clock at night. I hadn't eaten anything, but I drank quite a lot of alcohol for the shoot because I can't drink cold iced tea, but I can drink straight whiskey without flinching.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, so that's finally coming out. And I'm going to do a little thing for charity just because she deserves it. Yeah, definitely deserves that. And for Raza, because the video is a real story of something genuine that happened. But it's just done more artistically and with a bit more murder.
Okay.
Yeah. Quite a lot of new music. I'm essentially taking everything that's been on my laptop in whatever state it is, making it as good as it can be and getting it out there because I can't be afraid anymore. my life can't stop again.
Right. That's been perfect. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Can I ask, what are your favorite artists then?
I kind of got into music through like I was into like a punk, like I started getting into punk music when I was like a teenager, so I was into like the kind of Californian sort of punk music, like so like Black Flag, Bad Religion, Dead Kennedys, all that.
Black Flag's there, Bad Religion's there.
Yeah, that was kind of my scene. That was like when I kind of got into music, and then as I kind of got older, I sort of like Misfits. I love Misfits.
I wanted a Misfits tattoo when I was 13. I'm so glad I didn't stick and poke.
The Crimson Ghost, yeah. No, because when I was like I was in a band, we like would cover schools by the Misfits and stuff like that. So you cover school. Yeah, that's so cool.
Also in a cover band that wrote Five Nights at Freddy's songs. So it was parodies of the musical soundtrack Frozen, just to time date this.
Yeah.
But the lyrics were rewritten to be about Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah. So I've come a long way.
Will they ever come out on the record?
God, I don't even know what those people
as
are.
As B-side.
No. Oh, my friend Autumn ended their set at the Jack recently after some beautiful, beautiful but harrowing music with a song called Llamas with Mullets. It was amazing. Thank you. Llamas with mullets. And it was watching because I sort of knew the songs, so I wasn't as freaked out. Everyone else was like, I'm so depressed. I was there like, well done, sweetie. And then they kept going and I was like, oh my god. And then everyone else was going, what the fuck's going on? And I'm dancing like this. It's like how to show the mentally ill in the room. Now that I would happily, if they'd let me record a cover, I'd happily let that be a B-side, Llamas with Mullets, or maybe the Egg musical.
Yeah,
I released the EP on the other side. Oh, I also write theatre.
You should do this big like opera, like a concept album about an egg.
Oh, the Phantom of the Egg.
Well, the egg's journey starts from being laid by the chicken, and then ends on the ceiling. And then just its journey in between.
Yeah.
And that's just it's like the story of the egg.
Will be the pan and the boiling and the struggle that the egg goes through.
And then just make it like a metaphor for like capitalism or something, or just like okay, it's actually about, or give it something lofty where you're like, actually, it's about this topic. I don't know. Yeah, it's about
the nature of life and death.
How we're all born pure little eggs, and then we end up on the ceiling because we're losing our exactly
forgotten about by society. Not by the ADHD musician upstairs.
Modern living is cooking us to the pressure point where we just like explode on the ceiling.
In my defense, so the explosion of the egg gave me one of the songs on the EP called, it was called Yours Mine, because I wrote a song called Mine Yours, and I was like, I'm gonna flip it. It's now just called Mine. Thank you, Amy. She was like, no, get rid of the important thing. It doesn't matter that you were his at some point and he was yours. The important thing is mine.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, but the egg explosion came at the good point, because in that half an hour it takes to blow up an egg, I wrote a song.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to put that in the press release, aren't I? Yeah. The song that exploded an egg.
But don't expand on what that means. Just like let the journalist like interpret what that means.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, none of them look at it. No, I wouldn't get it.
People have been consistently getting, like, they've all changed it now. But I've learned that the names that they gave us as a song title is too long, because every single publication spelt the names that they gave us wrong. It was really? The names that they gave us, the name that they gave us, and I was like, oh, okay. Normally it's my pronouns, but for some reason this is more annoying.
At least, like, people haven't been calling it, like, gave us the name Stay or something like really absurd.
Yoda.
Yeah, exactly.
The Yoda remix is coming.
That'd be a funny concept. Just like take your old songs, but do them like in Yoda. Yeah, Yoda's like sentence structure.
Now I want to try that.
I think I'm just giving you terrible ideas. Don't listen to me.
They're not terrible though. They're not terrible.
Okay.
Like one of the last texts I sent one of my friends was, "Can you come in the studio next month and scream for me?"
Yeah.
And that friend replied, "Well, what are you gonna do for me?" Winky face. So like, good luck editing this.
Yeah.
Do you have to transcribe all of these manually? Like.
Yeah. So I just kind of like listen back to them and just like highlight the bits that I'm gonna like put as the things. So yeah, I used to do like full transcriptions like in the early days of the site, and like it was like it would take me ages. So I'm more streamlined now. So
yeah.
I'm more professional.
I do that with notes now. I used to write down every single thing that happened in rehearsal, and now I just write down, like, you move here, block goes here, don't fall on this. Like, and then I look back and go, what? Oh, sorry, I also do MT. I should explain that. I used to be a musical theatre actor first, and then musician second. Yeah, that wasn't true. That was something my ex used to make me say. They were like, no, you're not a musician. So I used to be like, oh no, I'm not a musician, I'm an actor, but you can see me headline the Jack next week.
Actually, that's a good question I just thought now. Like, do you think like the kind of like from that kind of like musical theater background, do you ever think about encompassing kind of theatrical elements to your live shows?
Yeah. There's so much stuff I could do. The amount of musical like video ideas I have in my head with full on dance numbers.
Yeah.
Like the names they gave us, the dun 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 dun, which goes over the original guitar part, was originally from a musical I was demo writing for uni about the Romantic poets, specifically about Percy Shelley, just because they were insane. The Romantic poets, love you too, baby. We're up to some mad stuff. Yeah. So but when it comes to live shows, like as someone who liked My Chemical Romance, the urge to have a full funeral progression that goes down the street to one of my songs, like full unhinged stuff. My friend Daisy and I, for a side project called Depressosaurus Rex, we wore dinosaur onesies. It was wonderful. It was so much fun because it needs to be fun. You know, we play the same songs over and over. I want to give people something interesting. Look at the freaking Eras tour. My mother is Taylor Swift. Like, look at the Eras tour. That woman is giving and giving and giving. Like, you're tired in your seat watching the movie and you're looking going, oh, you might be superhuman.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, it's crazy to do like that every night, like 3-hour show. Like, you'd be dead.
Yeah, I mean, it is like a full. It is sort of the same thing as what musical theatre performers do quite a lot of the time. But you know, they're not all one woman shows, pretty much. Yeah. And Taylor Swift's backup dancers and backup singers are some of the when we talk about theatrical elements, there's a scene for Last American Dynasty, which is they've got like ballroom dancers on the stage, and I wrote Perfect Crime, the R.I.P. song, in 3/4 partially because I wanted it to be a dark waltz, and now I'm like, I have friends that can dance. Could they fit on stage? Could they? Like, there's nothing to really stop me. The same, I love theatre sound because I was trained to do it. Why not? People complain about the mixing in like underground gigs because why did we start building concert venues underground?
Right.
The audio will always be terrible.
Yeah.
But about moving the speakers and doing a 360 sound, how I would like pan my own track, try and make a small venue like a stadium, because why not?
That's really cool, yeah.
From the back, because if they're already coming in from the front, you don't need to microphone the drums to the people at the front. Trust me, they can hear them.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I just playing around with that. If I had the free reign to do all of that stuff, and the same of I would bring in sensory friendly lights for every gig I played if I could.
Yeah.
Like, you can bring fairy lights, and like my friend Autumn brings a pillow to sit on and little things like that. But is it up to venues to make these changes if they have the money? Yes, but like there's so many MT things I want to do, costume changes, unhinged things. I love putting Easter eggs and stuff but because my songs are personal, it's real life stuff. So I'd be like, lol, remember this dress I wore when this bad thing happened?
Right.
These steps, this picture of me on the steps, do we recognize those steps? Yeah, but why not? There's like no one. Okay, music should be able to pass the campfire test. You should be able to just stand on stage and say, sing or talk and have people listen. And I guess that's what makes you a performer. But then when you've got that, why not get more interesting? Why not add glitter? Oh, I really want glitter. Like, fun stuff. Well, this has been an idea-filling conversation.
I agree. One last thing I'll just say is like, just as you were talking about, like you have these kind of ideas that you're sort of like throwing out in terms of like the live production. The kind of cool thing, I guess, like with being a part of any scenes that you can kind of like sort of anticipate the venues that would be good for your idea. You can kind of go, okay, I could play it there, do it there. Like when you kind of like, if you tour around, it's like, you don't have that personal experience with the venues you might be playing. So like, I always talk about this, like I forget who I was talking to, but I was talking to an artist who had this idea for like a visual aspect to their show and for like the backdrop basically. But he was kind of like, well, yeah, but the problem is like, you can't account for each venue because like some venues might be accommodating for that for the projection, where others just aren't. So he's like, he was saying like basically when you become like a theater size band or something, there's a consistency to the venues you play each night, so you can adapt the show to that. I'd say with an arena, anything, but like when it comes to like playing bars or clubs and stuff like that, you just have to kind of adapt to whatever the limitations of the venue is.
Liverpool's great for venues. Oh my god, is Liverpool filled to the brim with all different sorts of venues?
Yeah.
But accessible venues is another story. But like, I found it easier to convert for accessible stuff. It's easier to convert a cafe or something into a small gig space than it would be to make a venue hall accessible, which is odd.
That's very strange.
Incredibly odd. Yeah. But no, it's knowing the venues you're going to work with is great. Also, sound engineers and lighting technicians, like when Jimmy's in Liverpool was a thing, one thing that really sticks out for me is Graham, the engineer, remembered from the last gig I did that I couldn't have the flashing lights, and it was the nicest detail, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
They may have remembered it because I made quite a prominent joke about wanking on stage, but my wrist seized up.
As long as it was only a joke.
Yeah. I'm not Matty Healy.
Okay.
Oh, don't. I had to see that live. There were two older women behind me filming it, zooming in on his crotch, and I'm like, oh, man. What? Why? And on that note.
On that note.
I'm sorry. I've wasted 2 hours of your life.
Absolutely not. I've had a great time.
Yeah, so like, this is my favorite interview I think I've ever done.
Ah, thank you.
Well, you're a human being.
I try.
Hey, there are all days when we don't feel human.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, Lydia. Really
Thank you so much.
like that with you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
best of luck with everything coming up.
Yes, thanks. I hope you said. Is it okay if I keep in touch? I just want to know about you as a human
Absolutely.
being.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely, of
do you
course.
make music yourself? Can I listen to that? Or
I don't have any music out at the moment. I sort of like retired. I was like a teenage retiree of music because I was like in bands as a teenager, and I just got sick of like adapting to other people's schedules, and like now I can't even
that's
imagine it
90% of being in a band. My drummer's in like 10, and I'm like,
exactly.
mate,
Yeah, and that's the
trying
thing.
to
Like
find you.
that was when we were like teenagers, so we all just had like basically the same school schedule. Like none of us worked then because we're like 15,
I miss
16.
practice rooms. I miss high school practice rooms
Yeah.
when you had lunch hour to just go and you knew where everyone was going to be.
Do you ever have like the cool teachers who are like really kind of like oh, you're in the band, that's cool, and like trying to encourage you and stuff? Like I always love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I had a teacher, an English teacher called Mr. Roberts, who was in a band and made the mistake of telling a class filled of school children that he was in a band. I still remember it to this day because I was at the Jack and there was a lead singer that looked a bit like Mr. Roberts. And I could remember, I was like, wild eyes, and it's your English teacher like full licking the mic and doing stuff, and you're lucky
Nice.
knowing he's got a kid and all this fun stuff. That's my favorite thing when you watch Blink-182 videos and follow-up videos and you go, oh, you're dads now. That's fun.
As a percentage, how much would you say Mr. Roberts' band influence your music?
Mr. Roberts, if you ever see this, you are my one true inspiration. Everything I've done for you. No, I was queer, so my English teachers played in a very important part of my life. It's either your English teacher, music teacher, history teacher, art teacher.
Yeah.
Like the queer people will find one teacher and they will become mum. Thank you, Mrs. Lingwood. Thank you for never sleeping and spending all your time in school. Yeah, no. Yeah, I miss practice rooms. Yeah.
So I don't have any music. Was it?
Yeah. Oh.
How
old are you?
29.
Oh God, you're not old.
I'm old.
You were saying retiree. You're not old.
Well, no, as a teenage retiree because I was like, I can't do like I still write music, but I've just never released it. Yeah. Exactly, because like when I was like a teenager, I was like, I wanted to do like tour the squats of Europe, you know, the way they have like the DIY venues in Europe, and I was like, that's what I want to do, and like I like in my head I was doing that, and like all my friends that was in the bands were like, we don't even want to leave the studio. I'm like, oh, what's the point in doing this kind of And I was like, oh,
I remember that feeling with the Five Nights at Freddy's cover band. Didn't want to take it global. Just it there.
Well, we did one show and it was shit. It was like really awful because the stage monitors only had the mics, doing feedback. So you couldn't hear shit and it just sounded bad. And the gig by all means was terrible. But I was kind of like, well, yeah, you know, you play next and you keep going. They were like, no, we're never like doing a live show again. Like, for fuck's sake.
There's the fun in that.
Exactly. I thought like you learn on the job. You just play. I just wanted to be out playing, and they were just like, we just want to practice till every little inch of this is like perfect. Exactly. And it's just like, ugh. And we're mainly just doing covers too. Yeah, we definitely didn't record, thankfully. I think it would be embarrassing because like a lot of my like lyrics at the time were like, I'm gonna take on the world, man, and like I had no life experience really worth exploring at that point.
First song I ever wrote, I think I was like 10.
Yeah.
And it was when I had a BBC thing. I just remember this. I submitted literally just a thing that was recorded on a Dell laptop of just 10-year-old me singing. And then submitted it to BBC Introducing. One day that's gonna resurface.
I look forward to that day. Yeah, it could have been. Was it an original or
what?
Was it an original or a cover?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it was original. Yeah, 10-year-old me. I once went as a character I'd written from a play I'd written as a kid, and I went as that character for World Book Day.
Okay.
And no one knew I was autistic. Yeah.
Actually,
I had that homosexual audacity, man. Like... It's a thing.
No, I get it.
It's
I'm not questioning the validity.
the-
Thanks, Lydia, very much for your
Thank you
time.
so much. It's so fun. Thank you.
Take
Okay.
care.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too. And it's very
You
nice
too.
talking to
Thank you. Thank you. God, this is hard to edit.
you. Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you liked it, please subscribe and stick around because we have plenty more like this coming soon.